Really excited about this week's podcast. In the house is Pico. It's been 14 months since he's come to see all of his staff. Pretty slack if you ask me, but apparently we had a politician didn't want to let him in and blocked him on social media and did a whole lot of other things because he was quite boisterous during that period. I don't know if anyone remembers, but Pico when COVID was awesome. I loved you during COVID. I thought it was really exciting what you did.
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd give a different opinion and update each day than the numbers.
Well, it was definitely different.
Yep. And unfortunately, Anna blocked me, but that's one of those things. And yeah.
I didn't vote for it, doesn't matter.
But I'm allowed back in now, so that's the main thing.
That's what matters, mate. And we're here to talk about your recent trip to the US where you've gone over and done a bit of scouting in retail, a bit of scouting with sponsorships to look at two things that are really passionate here at Bodyscience. We love our retail partners and we love our sport.
Yep, true. Yeah, well, we had planned on going to Expo West back in, I think it was April, May 2020. And the week before COVID hit and we all got locked up. So we missed out on that trip, but that's obviously the big show in LA, showing trends and products and the rest of it. And so we missed out on that. So I thought I'd get over there and have a look and do some retail research and meet up with a lot of high profile teams and athletes and get a bit of feedback.
Well, when you said you want to come and I said, no, not really. After watching your Instagram, I was going, you're an idiot, Greg, you should have gone. Let's talk about that trip.
True. Yeah. So I gave you about 2 days notice and you knocked me back. So then I thought I'd share all the good content on social media just to make you jealous.
Let's rip in.
Welcome to the Bodyscience podcast. As always, the information contained in this podcast is for the information purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or be prescriptive to treat, prevent, or manage any injury, disease, or other health-related condition.
Welcome to Bodyscience HQ, the world of fit, happy, healthy. And I'm going to throw in the end, Pico's in the house. Mate, it's so good to have you back. For those people that don't know you, you must live under a rock because I think you've physically given more sports nutrition to any sport in Australia than any other human.
That's not quite correct. You have. I'm second.
You probably need to catch up on the accounts a little bit and see who's winning that game.
Yep.
And you are by far the superior giveaway person. Anybody that wants some free subs at BSC_Pico, DM him. You're a really good chance of getting some. Like I'm going to say that Sharon will come in at some stage who does our sponsorships and nail shit on the head all day long. But Pico, he's a generous human. And mate, you basically went to the US because, you know, we're 23 years old now. We're heavily into retail in Australia and we've got some of the best retail partners you could ask for in Australia.
Yep.
We're heavily involved in building our community ourselves because we need to control what happens with the brand, the products, the people in a space where we haven't really looked at that option as a brand in the past because we're very retail driven. And obviously, we put a lot of hard-earned money into sports sponsorship. Australian sponsorships have it's a big play for us in that part, and we love our sport and we love the athletes and we love sponsoring, but commercial departments are becoming money-driven in Australia and not so much, you know, they're not so much caring about the athlete needs. You know, they've got their budgets and things they need and they run a business, and I get that. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when we first went into sport, it was about changing athletes with commercial departments. So these days, it's about how much coin you got. We're not about that. We have so many teams and so many athletes. The depth of what we do, it's impossible to focus purely on one team. Neither would we as a brand. It's not really what we're about. We're about the athlete. So good story, Greg. Hurry up. What we did is you went over to the US and you experienced some of the best sports marketing I really hated. I'm going to let it out and I'm going to be honest. I really hated seeing you on the side of the Guillotines with an umbrella in a white deck chair watching rugby. A couple of days later, you were at the LA at the basketball, and I'm trying not to cry, and you were sitting in your own corporate box, and I thought, can't get any better than that. That's it. That's the end of his trip. It's good. I don't know, a week later, I saw you in the dugout.
At the Dodgers
and I'm thinking, man, this guy's going to get hit by a truck soon. This is going way too good. He's driving on the wrong side of the road. Some shit's going to go down. But you went over there and you met with all the elite teams to talk about the future of sponsorship and where it's all going. Do you want to fill us in on some of the cool things that happen?
Yeah, I think going back about talking about teams and how it's evolved, and it went from us helping teams into more commercial aspect from a team's point of view. I think back in the early days where we changed sport and nutrition in sport, going back in the early 2000s, and you always tell the story. I always tell the story about, you know, back in the day, teams that have a beer and a pie after the game. And
don't forget the cigarette, mate.
Yeah, a couple of players had a few bungers after the games and so on. To where, you know, the most fun we had in those early days was actually, you know, working with the teams and having a really close relationship. Go back to the early days of Hayden Masters, those sort of guys who I believe revolutionised, you know, that sort of part of the game, where I remember Hayden and us used to work together on even building different products for guys that were in the Fat Club, guys that were post surgery. Fat Club.
Haven't heard Fat Club for ages.
Yeah, so that was one of those things though, and we had different product stations set up for players coming off the field that post surgery, players that needed to lose a bit of weight, players that needed to gain a bit of weight, and so on. And it was pretty much went from there. So it was good fun in those early days making up all the different products. And as you know, we designed certain products for certain teams, like our Nitrovol's been around, lean muscle Nitrovol's been around forever. You can tell the story on how that one was designed, but we really enjoyed in those early days. And we've still got some of those teams. I mean, we've been sponsoring South Sydney since 2003, Canterbury Bulldogs since 2004, and the Waratahs and so on. And we've had long relationships.
Hey, Donnie, you asked a video, hurry up.
Yep. With all of those teams. And even speaking with, we had meetings in Sydney last week with the new trainers at the Waratahs and so on. And it's still really good fun to sit down and work with those guys about what they've learnt from overseas about recovery and just different aspect on the game. And, not so much talk about the commercial side of it and how much money you're going to give us and what else you can do, but the teams that are successful are the teams that still care about their players' welfare.
The integrity is all about the player, yeah.
I remember back in the early days with Geelong when they won three flags in 5 years when we dealt with them. They got massive offers from opposition companies in both compression and nutrition. And they were like, no, we want to stay with Bodyscience. The players love it. We know it works. And they placed their players' welfare more important than the dollars. And of course, if they're winning 3 out of 5 flags, all the other sponsorship dollars are going to come anyway. And
that's you say 3-2, they made the grand final in the other 2, is that right?
Yeah. And they hadn't won a flag in a long, long time. So it was really good fun working with those sort of teams, and still enjoyable working with teams that, get up off the bottom. And as you said, like teams like the Reds when they won, Waratahs when they won, Souths when they won. I mean, you're talking, and Swans when they won, you're talking there was, decades between premierships for them. So it was really good.
And, a lot of people don't understand that we really used that data that we've learned over 23 years as our R&D. Like it's at the people often say to me, what's your research and development team like? And I go, watch TV. It's real life.
Yep.
And people go on about, look, Chaos, great example. Probably one of the most used pre-workouts in elite sport at the highest level, yet you drop that to some people in the gym and they call it crap.
Yep.
Yet, you look at what we do, it's a listed medicine. The claims are all validated by research and research within 10 years in the right population. You talk about people run on using Chaos and it does the job at the highest level of sport. And that's what we know. You don't need to overcook something. No. You don't need to make something glossy and bright lights when we know that it works.
Yep. And again, products like that have been around for many, many years, and they're still around, and it's still good fun. I mean, the likes of Hayden Knowles, Craig Catterick, those sort of guys who, again, been dealing with us for many years. It's just great to sit down and talk with those guys and talk about, new products coming out, what might work, what issues they're having with certain players and how we can potentially help them. And we've been doing that for a long time.
And mate, Cat was just calling us last week. He's got us doing a whole lot of stuff with compression around sternums, and there's some fun stuff that these guys bring to the table. As a brand, we just don't retail it, we don't market it, we don't even talk about it actually. We just do what needs to be done for the athlete.
Yep.
And that's what I love. So when you went to the US, you're obviously talking to people who probably don't know the Bodyscience brand, I assume, and you got doors opened everywhere for you when we went over there because we have some great relationships over there. And probably the first one to talk about is the Guiltinis.
Yep. So we started sponsoring the Los Angeles Guiltinis rugby union team at the beginning of last year. That was their first year in the comp, and unions becoming pretty popular over in the States now.
Massive in the colleges system, massive.
Yeah, when I say pretty popular, I mean compared to the major sports, obviously not, but it is gathering momentum, more teams coming into the competition, promoting it really well. But yeah, they won it. They've obviously got some excellent players from all over the world in that team, and even in that 12 months from when they've gone into their facilities now are up there with the best of them. They play out of the LA Coliseum. They do it as a franchise. They do it really well.
And as a franchise, when you look at the Guiltinis, the entertainment factor of what they produce is like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I think they have to, because when you're competing with NFL and NBA and the National Hockey and so on, and it's a new sport, they really have to do it well. So it's even like LA itself is just a massive market. So for them to try and get some cut through and get people to the game is like a massive effort in itself from a marketing perspective, but they do it really well. They would do it as good, if not better, than a lot of teams here, but it's a massive, the market over there is so competitive that they have to. And, I was surprised when they spoke about the LA Galaxy and how that took them a little while to get that franchise going. And I thought, time flies. I thought, oh yeah, they've been around for about 10 or 12 years. And then they said they actually launched over there 30 years ago.
Is that right?
It's been 30 years since the Galaxy launched in LA. So, but now Galaxy are a big deal in LA, and David Beckham obviously helped that along the way. But yeah, that's how long it took for them to get going.
That's the great thing about American sport too, isn't it? They just pull the big names when it's needed.
Yeah, big time, big time.
With the Giltinis, can you explain to us, why do they use why do they use us for their nutrition and their compression?
Again, there was quite a few Wallabies playing over there in that first year. So the likes of Matt Giddo, Adam Ashley Cooper and so on. And they had an Australian based strength and conditioning. They had an Australian coach and so on. And look, anywhere you go in the world, regardless whether it's UK or South Africa or anywhere like that, when they talk about strength and conditioning coaches and so on, and physios for that matter, like Australia and New Zealand are really highly regarded. Mm-hmm. So obviously our brand has been really popular with teams here in the last 20 odd years. And so they said they wanted to win the comp. That was their ambition in that first year. And so they said they needed the best of the best in everything they did. And, kudos to them. They got it. They got the best players. Everything they did was great. And yeah, we were fortunate enough to get on board with them, and they won the comp first year in. So,
and mate, did we get any good learnings from the commercial team over there that we can bring back here to Australia? And
I think they do the experience really good. Their content team do a really good job over there in promoting the game, promoting the players. I think the players buy into the franchise really well. So obviously, a lot of them are new to LA. There's obviously a few American-based players, but they got players from the UK in, players from South Africa in, New Zealand, all over the place. So I think because the players are new there, they love LA. They all live, a lot of them are on Redondo Beach and all around Venice and all that type of area. So they're always promoting LA. And I think they do a really good job with the players actually promoting, the city and their team.
You don't see that much here in Australia, do you?
No, not at all. So, yeah, the players have got a really good buy-in to the team and what they do, and content people do a really good job of that. But the experience of the game was, phenomenal. It was a really enjoyable day. It was the first game. They've been trying to get me over there for a game, as I said, for 18 months or so now. But with the COVID restrictions, I couldn't get there, and I was fortunate enough to get over for the game. And they actually smashed New York, and that was going to be a real crunch game because got a few players out, but I think they ended up winning 46-0 or something. So
yeah, that's a close one.
Good game to be at.
And mate, what's it like for you as a business owner in Australia? And I mean, obviously we share this passion together, and I know the answer to this, but how do you feel for the people out there when you see a BSC on the side of a stadium like that one?
I was a bit surreal because when you look into the history of the Coliseum and what the Coliseum represents, then you start to get a real feel for how privileged you are to have your signage up at that stadium. So for those that don't know, in 2028, the LA Coliseum will host the Summer Olympics again. And it's the only stadium ever to have 3 Summer Olympics at it.
Wow.
I think 1912 was the first one. Don't quote me on these, but I think 1912 might have been the first time. Obviously 1984, the LA Olympics were on, and 2028. But when you go there and see how enormous this stadium is, and just it's a fantastic arena. It was surreal to have your logos placed around that stadium when you walked in and saw it for sure.
And Pico, we were one of the first brands to get our logo on the SoFi. Is it SoFi? Is that the way you pronounce it? Stadium?
Yeah, we were. So SoFi Stadium, for those that don't know, again, that's based in Inglewood in California. And it was, I was fortunate enough again to get a tour of that stadium, and it is just phenomenal. Again, don't quote me on the figures, but I think it was over $6 billion US to build.
Wow.
And this stadium is just next level. And again, we were fortunate enough to have the LA Giltinis play the first game there. And again, to have our Bodyscience logos on that particular stadium was just next level. We're talking like, I've never seen anything like it. So
is that the home of the Rams?
Home of the Rams and home of the Chargers.
And the Chargers, okay.
But it is like no stadium in the world, and I don't care what stadium you want to talk about, it is next level. It's the one that everyone will base their next stadium off. I think it holds about 70 to 80,000 people. There's not one bad seat in the house, but the facilities there is just crazy. Corporate boxes. I went and visited the Corona Beach house, or the Corona Beach hut, which is the corporate box there, and it's about the size of what we would have here in Australia, about the size of 10 corporate boxes, the biggest boxes here, and 2 stories high.
Wow.
So you have a Spanish staircase that goes from one level upstairs to another level, and they actually had that on both sides. So they had a Corona Beach Club on one side and a Corona Beach Club on the opposite side. So yeah, it was just a phenomenal stadium, and they built it when they built it. Like, I could go into this and talk on this forever, but they actually built it with earthquakes in mind. So it's done all the earthquake checks and everything else, and yeah, it was phenomenal. But yeah, back to your original question again. When you look back at it and you watch that first game, and they actually played the Super Bowl there in 2020.
That was this year, wasn't it?
2021. Yeah, 2021, which the LA Rams won, which was great to have your signage at that game. Even so, the Giltinis played there prior to that Super Bowl. Just to know that your signage is appearing all over that stadium, the best in the world, was a real privilege.
That's cool.
Hi, I'm Tom Green, Olympic champ from Tokyo, and if you want the best tasting protein bars on the market, you should try the new Bodyscience Moose range. Greg, you better be testing these.
Mate, they're getting drug tested, got you covered. And mate, you brought back quite a lot of learnings from that Corona Beach Club that you want us to roll out this year. Are you going to drop any little secrets out there for all the other people?
Well, back in the...
If you get an invite, you'll know what's going on.
Yeah, well, back in the early days...
Once again, hit up his DM me on his Instagram if you want to get an invite. That's how you do it.
Back in the early days, we probably, again, revolutionised, I would say, corporate dining, because a lot of people followed us after this. So a lot of people, when they get things in contracts and corporate dining and seats to games, go along, sit there, whatever, we decided to, and I think it was your idea actually, we decided to have like a nightclub type feel. It was the Waratahs game.
That was the first big one we did. And
I think we had about 140 people to that one. But we
60-person box.
Yep. We hired DJs. We had red carpet. We had security. We had absolutely everything at that game. And no disrespect to the Waratahs or the team they were playing, but I think out of the 140 we had there, I think only 18 people actually went outside to watch the game, because we had everything happening inside from an entertainment level. And yeah, we sort of started that idea, and it was funny because a friend of mine was telling me what they do in some of the NFL games now and so on, where they have a nightclub at the other end of the field and all that sort of stuff that they've just introduced. I sort of took my mind back to, I don't know how long ago it was now, maybe 12 years ago, maybe longer, 15 years ago, when we sort of started that idea back here at the Sydney Football Stadium.
What Nathan's left out on that one is we bought a pool table in, we bought arcade games,
pinball machines.
We had everything. You could shoot shit.
Yep.
Like there was so many things to do.
Yep.
That we actually forgot there was a football game on.
Yes, correct. But the Waratahs won, so we'll still have.
Well, I don't think a lot of the guys in the commercial team saw the game either, just quietly, because they were having a great time in the court.
No, but a lot of other major sponsors wondered what was happening in our room and all wanted to come in, and so I think a few of the teams took a few of those ideas, and corporate dining in Australia has changed a little bit since then, and more about that entertainment value that we started back then in the day.
So, mate, you ended up in a probably one of the most sought after, apart from being on the side of the court,
yep,
which in basketball is the beautiful people place.
Yep.
You ended up with your own corporate box that you could have seriously bought 30 of your best friends to.
Yeah, again, that was...
like, you still haven't told me how you did that.
I broke into it. I broke into the box, saw that it was empty, used the old Redfern trick, and used the credit card to slice the lock open and jumped in there and took advantage.
This is the Lakers, not the Redfern under 15s.
Yeah, look, I was privileged. I knew some people who knew some people, and they got us into the game. It was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's 75th birthday, and again, entertainment next level. I think they had Snoop Dogg singing happy birthday to him. It was just insane. They gave everyone in the stadium a LA Lakers jersey with Kareem's number on it. It was just one of those things. And
that's
it was
sport, isn't it? That's
entertainment from start to finish.
Yep.
I didn't ever know there was a basketball game happening. It was just next level, and they do it well.
Are you seriously going to sit there and say you didn't know a basketball game was happening and you ended up in a corporate box at the Lakers?
Correct.
You are touched. You are so touched.
The Lakers won again, so
which is another good day.
Good result.
Day in sport.
Good result.
Obviously, Tomo would have been absolutely frothing because he's a basketball nut.
He was. Well, he said that the game seemed to go for like 3 hours because he loved every minute of it. But yeah, look, as
That's
I said,
Nathan's young son who
was,
experienced his glory as well.
it was entertainment from the time you walked in. And to be honest with you, I spent a lot of time outside the box, just walking around the stadium, checking out everything they had, what was happening around it. So.
Could you imagine an Australian team giving a jersey to every person who went to a stadium?
No, well, again, you talked about the Dodgers. Again, one of those chance things with a friend of mine, Dan Adair, invited me to the game and was down in the dugout. Yep, as luck would have it. But again,
how did Dan Adair get into the dugout? That's probably a big question we need to ask too.
Well, again, he's really well connected, best personal trainer in LA.
There you go.
Yep. Anyway, but again, fortunate enough, it was the Jackie Robinson 75th. Number 75 must have been the lucky number of that tour. It was the 75th anniversary of the Jackie Robinson Day. So going back, Jackie Robinson was the first coloured guy that they let play baseball. And he played for what was then the Brooklyn Dodgers. And to mark that anniversary every year, I was, again, lucky enough to go on that day of the anniversary, but every single player for every single team wears number 42. That was his number. Which got a little bit confusing for me because when I was on the sideline and saw number 42 ready to bat, and then the next guy came up and I'm thinking, hang on, this is the same guy, number 42. And then the next guy was number 42. Got a bit confusing, but yeah, they all wore the number 42 socks on both teams. And again, I heard on the radio, because it took me 2.5 hours to go about 10 kilometres to get to the game. But I heard on the radio that they were giving away to all the people that came Jackie Robinson memorial jersey for that as well. But it was only to the first 40,000 people.
Oh, only the first 40,000.
And I'm thinking, there's no way that they're even going to get 40,000 to a baseball game. But
you kidding me?
It was the first 40,000 got them.
Wow.
So yeah, again, it was unbelievable experience. But that was corporate dining again on a whole new level.
It looked like you could reach out and touch the players.
I could, yeah. In fact, like when they come over to sit next to us, like they were practicing batting next to us, the dust they were kicking up was actually getting in my beer. It was on the ground, so I was a bit disappointed there.
Were you blown up?
No, I didn't have a go at him. It's all right. I offered him a drink.
You also spent a fair bit of time there looking at retail.
Yep.
Is there how are we as a nation retail-wise versus the US at the moment?
Look, obviously, I think the quality of our products are a lot better here.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot more stringent from a testing perspective. As far as variety concerned, like anything to do in the US, the variety and choice is just a whole new level. Like you walk into Whole Foods, which is like a grocery store type thing over there. Most people probably know Whole Foods. There's just aisles and aisles and aisles of choice. So if you wanted something, the first thing I walked in, collagen products, and there was bays and bays and bays and bays. Like there was that much choice. You could have spent, or I could have spent, and I did it sometimes, 2 hours in there just searching for different products and seeing what the market's doing. So from that perspective, from a variety of products and choice, it's a whole new level. Can't explain how big it is. So if you want a plant protein, you would have like bays and bays and bays of different plant protein bars, again, bays and bays and bays. So I don't know how people, in the US shop or what really stood out. Obviously, your packaging over there really has to pop and some really good call outs on your product, because from that perspective, it's ultra competitive. From a shelf layout point of view. That was at Whole Foods. From a supplement store / health food store perspective, I would say we're nearly on par. There's some retailers here that would give them a run. But again, from a variety point of view, there's just so many brands with so many different types of products over there. It's crazy.
If we were to square the ledger up, I mean, obviously in LA, there's as many people in LA as there is in Australia. Mm-hmm. If you were to look at like a per head concept versus population, do you think our stores are actually overstocked versus, I mean, you just said there's a lot of variety in stores, but there's the whole of Australia in one city.
Yep.
I mean, you walk into a Chemist Warehouse now, and there's variety in Chemist
Yep.
Warehouse. Like there's a lot of brands.
Yeah, there's a lot of brands. I mean, you walk into health food stores here or supplement stores.
ASN's, nutrition warehouses, they've both got lots of variety.
All of those.
As well.
They have got lots of variety, but again, compared to some of the retail stores over there, no, probably not.
And did you...
As I said, like if you could walk in, and I'll go back to Whole Foods, but you walk into Whole Foods, it'd be nothing to see 12 bays of protein bars. And there'd be half a dozen different brands on each bay.
Wow.
Of different brands. There's so many.
Are
so
they?
many.
And is the US brand blocking, or are they putting it under solution?
They're a bit of both. So when I said collagen products at the beginning, there'd be probably 4 or 5 shelves of certain brands because they do collagen with this, collagen with that. So, there's so much variety, even within one brand, because there's certain things that are on trend, like collagen at the moment, and plant protein and so on, still on trend over there. So, there'd be, plant protein with greens, plant protein with this. So, there's a lot of brand blocking going on, but they do go by category to some extent as well.
I did love the fact that you went over there and said, wow, there's a lot of collagen, because the week before that you were saying to me, why have we got this collagen product coming out and this collagen product coming out? And it was really good for you to go to the US and actually see that,
to validate your decisions.
Yeah, well, it's nice for me to sit back and think that's what happened, but...
I went over there telling them all Greg's a genius.
Shutting you up.
Leading
was
the
really
way.
What the good thing that came from it, like
leading the way.
I just thought, he's just going to back off now, which is great.
Which is good.
Yeah. So, mate, where are we at as a brand in the US? What's happening?
So met with a few retailers over there who were excited to hear about our brand. Really liked our brand, like what we stood for. Obviously, when you do a presentation like ours, we've been around for 20 odd years, so many different products. But again, the beauty of the brand is there are products like Chaos, like our Hydroxyburn Shred, like our Triandrobol, which has been in the brand since before I started. So there's 20 years or so that product's been in our range. I think when you...
Can I just say something right now? Remember where you're at. I've got an old Triandrobol bottle downstairs and it's still got the tablets in it. He starts to take the lid off to take...
Well, because
it's got to be 17 years old.
Yeah, but
Put
because
it back.
I said surely they can't be the original ones, and they were. They're the old blue and white ones.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
When you've got those products in your range that have been around for that long, and as I said, Triandrobol's been in the range for, I would say 18, 20 years, whatever it is, maybe longer. It's pretty easy because you've got a resume there to show that you've got longevity in the brand, longevity in the products, the fact that we've got so many elite level athletes, teams and so on that sing our praises. The retailers that I spoke to are really interested. And so we're just, following up with some of those retailers now to see if there's a fit for both of us. And hopefully we can get our supplements over there shortly.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting that you told me was our commitment to drug testing, because in the US, it's pretty much that they test a product on the first batch and that's it. It's a tested product.
Yep.
When you were telling me that you're having a discussion with them about the fact that we bought Inform Sport, because they all know Inform Sport, and Inform Sport's having a crack in America at the moment. And obviously Hasta, we're the first to Hasta here. When you said to me that they actually couldn't believe that we tested every batch.
No, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Because a few of them over there, like you said, do Inform Sport. There was a lot to do Inform Choice, which is the random one,
Yep.
So there was quite a few still doing Inform Choice, some doing Inform Sport. But like they did in Australia, after we launched Inform Sport, you had brands over there that would get 1 or 2 products tested and then run their brand off that.
And they make out everything was tested and sell the brand off that. But I think, again, the reason... That's better than the ones who do one test, mate, and make out that they're a tested brand.
Exactly.
A few of those floating around.
Yeah. The reason why I think they're so interested in the brand is because we go to that level, and like why all the teams in Australia are so interested in our products. They've got such a wide variety, from protein bars, RTDs, creatines, pre-workouts, post-workouts, intra-workouts, everything we do. The team can utilise and know that they're drug tested. So there's not many brands that do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's banned substance testing is getting wider and wider around the world.
Which is good for us, right? So the fact that more teams are sort of putting the imports behind that is a good thing for sport.
I always sit here and laugh, and when people say to me, back when we tested, when we first started testing, and we actually got accused of being too safe.
Yep.
Can you believe that shit?
Well, it wasn't even back then. I would say even a couple of years ago, we still used to say our brand's too safe, which is a weird concept, right? But I think like with the TGA clamping down on a lot of things now, which again is good for us. And I think
it's good for the industry, mate. It's good for the industry to play in that place.
But it's good for the industry. It's good for the Australian public to know that as well, because then the Australian public know what they're actually putting in their bodies. So because they hear a lot of things going back, to some certain scandals that happened a few years back. I'm sure the Australian public, a little bit skeptical about supplements at times, but when you can get sort of TGA approval on products like we do, it just goes well for the Australian public to know what they're taking. Yeah, mate, it's definitely the future. And I was amazed that the Americans actually knew what that was too. Like, that was something really interesting for me to hear. Is they're aware of that manufacturing standard? Yeah, they do. I think one of the things over there is they know that they obviously have their own standards, but I know Australia and New Zealand are considered some of the best in the world when it comes to the laws and how stringently we test our products.
Yeah, and look, we often sit back and go, we are over-regulated. There's a lot, but when you look back, for the end consumer, it just means quality, purity, trust, safety, all the words you want when you're sticking something in your mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, as you know, we've had opportunities over the years to do certain products and use certain ingredients in our products, which again, might have made us a quick dollar, but also might have got us into trouble, and we didn't, and that's why we've been around for 20 odd years.
And it'll be another 22, mate, which is the good news. Hey, just before we close up, you've been with Bodyscience how long now?
2004, so 19 years.
People often ask, how did you two meet?
Yep.
And it was a bit of a funny story. It was a Christmas party with Titan Management.
So
who had 60% of the footballers at that time?
Yep.
Easily?
Yep.
Yeah, the massive.
Yep.
And so I thought we were jumping on a little boat with, a handful of people. I get there, it's this massive, big, it's like a ferry.
Yep.
And I walk on there and there's, I don't know, there would have been 150 NRL players this is the early days too, remember back. What would you say, 2004?
Yeah, I think that's... Well, no, it might have been earlier than that we actually had that cruise. Yeah, it would have been.
It was,
because I started with Bodyscience.
You
might have
joined
been
Bodyscience
2001.
after that, that's right, yeah. And so I'm on this boat with all these people who I think are just, some of the greatest athletes in Australian sport. And I'm standing there by myself going, well, fuck, how long have I got to go? This is going to be a 4-hour... You got to do two things here, Greg. You got to go get smashed, make a dickhead of yourself, and people remember who you are.
Do what you do best.
Or you just got to go and slap palms. And I remember walking to the back of the boat and seeing you, and I thought, this guy don't play footy. I can tell that. But I'd actually knew that you were heavily involved in eyewear back then, and
Yep.
might have been a few pairs of sunnies that slipped over my desk at some stage leading, because you are the king of giveaways.
Yep.
Once again, if you want to give away from Nathan, DM him, BSC_Pico. He loves it.
Yeah.
That joke never gets old.
Yeah. No, well, I was. I was involved, yes. I used to be involved in sunglasses and optical industry back then, but also did some work in a sports management company with Titan Management with Dave Riolo and Warren Craig.
That's right. You were doing sports management as well, yeah.
Sports management. So we used to put the cruise on for all of the players and some of the sponsors, and Bodyscience was one of those sponsors at the time. So that's how we met.
And that's how we really became entrenched in rugby league, really back in those early days.
Yep.
It wasn't just about the teams. There was a lot of players. Like you look at Paul Gallen, for example.
Yep.
I've still got pictures of the first day I met him, and you look at him when he finished, he's a weapon.
Yep.
And how many games did he play? Like some incredible stat.
Yep.
It all came down to just building those relationships of trust early. And that was one of the things that I really love about my journey at Bodyscience and my time here. And I was talking to someone today about, what is it? You're always happy, Greg. Like, you don't have the highs and lows. And I just go, mate, you got to be kidding me. Like, I make something I believe in. I give it to the best people in the world.
Yep.
Like the sponsorship,
Yep.
the giving, the donating part, the part we do with athletes. And I have an amazing team that I come to work every day. We're like 37% of our staff for 10 years.
Yeah, it's
Like,
crazy.
Who's got that data, mate? Like, it's been such a cool place to grow myself, you
Yep.
know, like and I'm in a position now where our partnership's been strong. Our team partnership's strong. We've got some really good retail partnerships now.
Yep.
And I think we're actually making change in a lot of places.
And that's not to mention a lot of the community work we do and so on, which is also like very satisfying, working with people like Tour de Cure and so on. Those sort of relationships we've had. Again, I won't rattle off all the stats, but for those that don't know, Tour de Cure, have funded so much research into cancer now and have raised
like $300 million or something.
Yeah, millions and millions of dollars that they've raised over the years, and that relationship continues to be strong to this day.
That's probably the longest one we've got in the business, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
And that's always the same. We took the same theories we had in sport to those sponsorships. So we're about the athletes,
Yep.
and every time they stop, we had them covered. We had
you know what?
tents,
They did the same thing.
bars.
They weren't coming to us to say, guys, can you give us, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go toward cancer research or whatever, but Tour de Cure raise money by having cycling participants and so on, and they ride from city to city and so on a few times a year, and they were more about us looking after the athletes and putting up tents at different stops, but they have their cyclists go from town to town and they stop each night and go around and educate schools and communities about cancer and so on, and do a wonderful job there. And as I said, they were just about us in the initial stages, just looking after their cyclists when they come in at the end of the day to help them recover to go again. Again, don't quote me on it, but I think they might ride 120, 130K a day, day after day after day. And yeah, they came to us for that. Again, I lose track of years, but might have been 12, 15 years ago. I'm not too sure. But that relationship's as strong now as it ever was, and they're a great bunch of people to work with.
And that was the start to us. We decided that we wanted to be a charity every month.
Yep.
I mean, let's be honest, we do a charity every week.
Yep.
But from the perspective of a brand that we could all celebrate and we normally deal in team-based deals. Like when we're not really about, here's a check. We're more about, let's go fundraise for this event, and some of the things that we've fundraised. So even here on the Gold Coast, like Mob Academy, we raised $21,000
Yep.
in a paddle. We gave away Red Bull race, car experiences. We had people training with the Titans. We just do some really cool stuff in that space that they had the ability to then go and auction all that type of thing off. And that's us giving away, that comes at the expense of our team here at work. We've done the day where we took everyone out to that and it was awesome. The coach gets up and chat. You get a Titan shirt. You train with the players. That's money can't buy cool stuff. And so we do so much of that work that it's almost like my job now is doing that.
Yep. We're just fortunate enough that we can do that sort of stuff and have those sort of assets to be able to help out these charities and communities along the way. So, and
not to mention the athletes that we lean on. Classic example, Run Army last weekend for Legacy. Brett gives a call, said, Greg, we need some sports drink. We need all this for the run. Will you have a chat and get involved? And so, of course, we go, yeah, mate. And that's come from Tour de Cure. That's where you guys met, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tour de Cure.
I call Kenny Wallace, go, Kenny, guess what? You're coming up to run 10Ks. He goes, I've never run 10Ks and I really don't want to. And as soon as you tell him what it's for, these athletes turn up and on the day, they've got mics put in there. It's not a fun day for them.
Yep.
Sorry, it is a fun day, but they've got mics put in front of them. They're asked to speak and do a whole things. But the caliber of athlete that has come with that journey with us as well, it's just, we've actually got a thing on the Gold Coast called the Kenny Wallace Legends Club, and it's a whole lot of business guys on the Gold Coast, and we just put Kenny in things that he's never done now on that paddle. We all paddled a few Ks. He said, I've never paddled 100 Ks. I'm going to paddle 100 Ks. Talk about an idiot. He got off it. His fingers are all bent. His nerves are all shot. But he's, we did 24-hour ski erg, got him along. He's never been on a ski erg. He doesn't ever want to go on one again, just quietly. He's just hit up a rowing event. There's a rowing event coming up, raising money.
Yep.
And he's like, well, let's put a rowing team in. And he's not a rower. He's a kayaker, remember?
And a good story that Tatiana just told us as well about Latrell Mitchell helping out recently.
Yeah, reached out there, and he's what's happened with a lot. Tatiana, our nutritionist, does a lot of work in community, so she's part of the role of her starting here. She said, I want to continue to do my community stuff, and we're like, yeah, well, we love that as well because we're all about community, especially you, Nathan. You're very touched by it, and being a Redfern local, and so reached out. And a lot of their runners are not allowed to run at events because they can't afford spikes.
Yep.
And so he's gone to, I hope I've got this right, but I think it's Adidas, and it's just amazing that they could do that
to help us out with the trail. And
it's just that's the real special stuff, though, Nath. You know what I mean? It's not what you make a day. It's not how much money. It's not the hustle. It's not all that. It's those little things you do that change people's lives.
Yep, for sure.
And I love it. And obviously they'll share those because it won't be there's your pair because there's so much talent out there. But that's the passion that Tatiana's got in that space. We just love doing that type of activity, and it was so good that you could lean on him and Kyle from Red Bull. Big shout out to you for making that happen too, mate. That we can be part of these kids getting spikes so they can actually compete.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things too. It was at a time when Latrell wasn't actually playing, so it was good of him to come in and help us out there.
Well, mate, we've actually got to go celebrate another 10 year. Joel Denning, who started here 10 years ago, plus 3 weeks because he's been that busy, he hasn't been able to stop for his own party, is 10 years, and that puts a big smile on my face because you've come up, because he's a big part of our business.
Just for that, Joel, I've flown all the way up just for your 10th anniversary.
And a special shout out to Shazzel, who's at 9 coming on 10, so it feels like 15 with her, but that's
Barry
just life.
Bella.
Yep. There's just so many good stories we can tell. We're just starting to talk crap now and wasting people's time, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who's ever bought a Bodyscience product. Thank you to everyone who's ever considered our brand as something to put on a shelf at your business. That is really special to us too. And from Nathan and I, just a massive thank you to everyone out there who's been involved.
Awesome.